Hey guys, what's up? I came on today to talk a little bit. I've got some feminists on my page rattling off crap. You know, the typical feminist bullshit. So after reading all of her messages, I figured it'd be easier to just come on and talk to everybody and kind of give them the lowdown. One of the first things she brought up is that I pointed out in one of my videos that women are basically once they have children, they don't go back to work. Most of them, actually, only about 35% or so actually go back to work. So she tried to point out that the reason why they don't go back to work is because if they work 8 hours, and they have to pay for like 10 hours of child care, that all their money goes towards transportation and picking up the kids and paying for all this stuff, which is actually not the case. Typically, from what I've seen, I've done after getting my master's in psychology, I dealt with a lot of family psychology while I was in school, and I talked to many couples, hundreds and hundreds of couples, and what I found is I never yet have seen a couple where the wife, who, if she was working, was giving more than about 50% to the whole household, to like paying bills, paying for things like that. That's expected. If you're the man, you're supposed to take care of them. And I've very rarely seen a case where the man hasn't paid about 95% of the income to the wife, to the family, to the home, to the bills, to the cars, to the taxes, to the, you know, phone bills, to electric, to internet access. You know, all that stuff is paid for by the men. And what the point that she had brought up was, if she has to work, that they will then in fact have to spend most of their money on the child care, and it's easier for them, it's cheaper for them to just stay home and take care of the kids. But in many cases, that's not the case in the first place, because in most cases a wife wouldn't have to stay home with the children all day, because they'd be in daycare. They wouldn't be in daycare, but they'd be in school, and you don't have to pay to put your kids in school because they're going to have to be in school anyways. So this whole, you know, I have to pay to put my kids in school. There's the Head Start classes in America now, where a lot of kids start going to school for 6 or 7 hours a day. You know, when they're around 4 years old, or 3 or 4 years old, then they go to kindergarten. You know, so they start very early. So at the very most, a woman could take off, you know, for say 6, you know, till they're 3 or 4 years old. Then at that time they could get a part-time job. But she made the case that that wouldn't be good, because then she would have to pay for somebody to take care of them. And as I've pointed out, that's never the case. Typically, what will happen is the husband is made to do that. I've never seen a case yet where a husband would be able to tell his wife, you have to spend all of your money from your paycheck to take care of the kids, to pay for their stuff. That would be the man's job. And if you told your wife something like that, it would be equivalent to you getting her a vacuum cleaner for her birthday. You know, that's just not going to happen. And they wouldn't tolerate it either. So putting that aside, we'll continue on with this. She seems to think that most of my videos are talking about my fear of women. Well, as a transgender male to female, that seems to be a little bit hard to believe, you know. But I don't fear women. Women fear us, you know. We have points of fact, and they have bullshit non-facts, you know. Most of the stuff they point out, most of the studies they point out, it's along the same lines as the people who try to say climate change isn't real. They point to 2 scientists out of 98% that say climate change is real. They point to the 2 scientists that say it isn't and say that that's facts to back up their point. Well, in this debate, that's a non-debate about feminists' rights and how they're downtrodden, they point to a couple of studies that were done by feminists with data that is shifty, to say the least, you know, and it's not real good data, very small group sizes, and most of the studies have been skewed into their favor, so that they can point to those studies and say that it's fact when it's actually not. Most of these people won't debate us in a live debate because they don't have anything to back up their case, and it's very easy to say and show how that's the case. So what they will end up doing is, most feminists, when they have a debate with somebody, they're really good about being kind of like CNN. They don't actually have anything to back up their facts. So what they do is they'll yell over the top of you, and they'll start slandering the person themselves. They'll start slandering you and not what you're saying, because they have no comeback for the saying. So they just have to start pointing out derogatory facts about the person, you know. And this is a common technique that especially a lot of women like to use. A lot of women think that this is a way you can win an argument. Isn't if you have no argument, you just start. And they learn this stuff in school. You know, they learn this stuff playing with their friends and being bullies. And basically, they learn how to train other people by yelling and being aggressive towards other women. And some of the worst bullies in schools are women towards each other. So they'll tend to bully their way into getting somebody to back down, you know, and to say that the facts that they have that are actual facts aren't facts. And if they can't get you to do that, then they'll just yell over the top of you and bark at you and try to make you look like you don't have any facts, and not ever allow you to actually speak about the facts. This is a common technique. This is what Fox and CNN, NBC, and you know, all the networks like to use this technique when somebody comes on and they have to try to make that person look bad. You know, they like to do that stuff to like Jesse Ventura and Ron Paul and people like that. When they come on, they have something real to talk about. They can easily make that person look like they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And she's talking about in her thing, you know, she's all this crystals and, you know, how typical they are. You know, she's talking about how it's hard to live your life in fear of women, and that you should maybe I should do dancing, and I should do like crystals and, you know, yoga and that kind of crap. She's one of these, you know, typical nitwit feminists that like to think, you know, they like to speak down to you, even though they don't have anything to stand on. They don't really have any arguments. They don't have anything to stand on. But what they have to stand on is that pussy between their legs, and they think that gives them enough of a crutch to stand over the top of you, even if you have more education, if you're more well versed in what you're talking about. They don't care. That's no problem for them, because they have that wet pussy and you want it, so they're going to make you suffer for it, and that's what they want, you know. And she seems to think that men are scared of them, you know. And the funny thing is, they're scared of MGTOW, and they're scared of the men's rights, because we have real facts and real points of fact and studies to back us up, and they don't have any of that. And it scares them because we can derail their train very quickly. And if we get into open debates with them, which is why they run every time we're trying to debate a feminist, they run. They don't want to. People like Anita Sarkeesian, they don't want to debate in an open debate because they don't have anything to debate with. All the bullshit that they throw out, the 70 cents, less money, and all this bullshit, all these things that they throw out are all complete horseshit. And they know it's complete bullshit, and in some cases that maybe they don't, but they don't even look at the studies to show that it's bullshit. They just take it at face value. It's like how people will, if you see somebody from like Greenpeace that comes up to you on the street and they say something like, there's dogs being beaten in some other country, and it's really bad, and you should just sign this paper here and it'll help them. And people go, I don't like dogs being beaten. That sounds awful. Yeah, I'll sign that. And that's basically what they get. That's how this feminist thing works. They throw out these bullshit things that have really nothing backing them up, and it's just a call to action. It's a fake claim, that's something that gets people to go like, oh yeah, that doesn't sound good. Maybe we should do something about that. And they have people actually dumb enough to not do their research, and this is the problem nowadays. But I think it's going to change because there's so much of Google, and you can find out very quickly. But the problem is a lot of people are too fucking lazy, especially feminists. But a lot of people are too fucking lazy to look it up. If somebody tells you some bullshit, it's really easy to just grab your cell phone and go, nah, it's bullshit, man. It's crap. It's very easy to find that shit out. So they have nothing to back that up. And if you were in a debate with a woman, you could let her scream and yell and tell all of her bullshit. And while she was talking, you could get on Google and find all the bullshit. And when you get your chance to talk, you'd say, well, it says here and blah, 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 blah. This is wrong. You said this and blah, 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 blah. It says that's bullshit. You said this and you said this. And you could just point off and rattle off all the cases where everything that they just said was bullshit. And there would be no debate, because to have a debate, there has to be two sides that have some facts to argue with. But the only side that has facts are the men's side. The women don't have any facts. All their facts are made up. It's all conjecture. I'll put her comments in the section below, so you guys can see what she said. But that's why they like to attack your person. I did a video that had facts, and I pointed out facts, and I have in my description the places where you can find those facts. And instead of talking about the facts, and she left a comment on there, and I pointed out the facts on top of that. And her next statement was about me being scared of women, and I should do pottery classes and dance classes and yoga, because she has no argument. This is typical of feminism. They just start coming at the person, and I don't really care. As a MGTOW person, most of us MGTOW will tell you that's not an argument, and that's not something that works with us. That's for some ball-buster wife, talking to her husband. That don't work for MGTOW. We don't give a shit. You can try to degrade us. Doesn't really work. Doesn't work to me. Never has. I don't really care what a woman thinks of me. I don't care if she thinks I'm weak. I don't care if she thinks she can sink her claws into me, because she can't. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about your ideas. Unless you've got actual facts to back up what you're saying, it doesn't mean anything, and I don't give a fuck, and neither does any of the other MGTOWs. And then next, she tried to point out that being a MGTOW is a nice strategy, and it's it's nice for us to abstain from relationships, kind of pointing out the fact that we're scared of them and we're running away from the idea of being married. And that's absolutely not the case. And anyone that's done any real research into MGTOW and into the feminist movement will see that there's a good reason for the MGTOW and for MRA. There's a good reason for it. And you know, when you think about the fact that one of the worst facts is that women don't seem to want to find is when a man goes to college, he tries to get a good degree so that when he gets out of college he can have a good enough job to have a wife and kids, and then he ends up paying about 90% of his income over his life for his children and his wife, and very little of that money goes to what he wants. Whereas the woman may have went to college, they get some softball degree in like a liberal arts or some bullshit degree like that, where if they get any job, it's not going to pay them very much money, and it's just a softball class so that they can get some crappy job long enough to find some guy to marry them so they can retire at 25, you know, or under 30 years old. Well, the thing that I like to point out is if every man was MGTOW from the time they were like 19 and all they ever did was have sex with women, never got them pregnant, never wanted to, if they did that, every man could retire at 40, at the very latest 45. They'd have their own house, they'd have their own car, they'd have their own life, they wouldn't have anybody tagging off of them, and they would have enough money to do whatever they wanted to, and they could stop. They could even open their own company, and all you'd have to do is just work for about 20 years, 25 years. If you did that from the time that you were 19 or 20, after you got out of school, went to college, got a degree, worked for some company, went into STEM, you know, did sciences or something like that, built computers, fixed computers, repaired them or whatever, did electrical. A lot of guys that are electricians make good money, plumbers, you know. I had an uncle that was a plumber in San Diego. He made like $80,000 a year doing that, you know. So I mean, if you go into these things and you're not with a woman that drags off of your wallet, you could retire very easily. Most of the MGTOWs are starting to realize that. If you don't have a woman, then you have money. As soon as you get a woman, especially if she went to college, you take on debt. As I said in another video, when you take on a woman, you take on debt. Because their whole game is to get you to work your ass off, work yourself to death, to pay for their student loans, their kids, their life that they want since they were a kid, you know. In many cases, all guys want to do is, you know, have a nice life, maybe do some vacationing, have some fun, and then they meet a woman, she wants 10 kids, you know, or some shit, you know, and then they end up being a fucking, you know, welfare person, you know, where they got a wife living off of them while they bust their ass 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that they can lay at home and fuck off, you know. And this is typical. This is typical of a woman. And the funny thing is, a lot of these women will listen to feminist rhetoric and act like it's got a point, you know, all the while not even realizing what they're doing to the man that they claim to love, you know. They don't love them. They don't love them, you know. I've met very few women in my life that actually give two shits about the man that they're dating. They only care about one thing, or a few things actually. They don't care about just one thing, but mainly how much money do you have, how much potential do you have, and how can I use that potential. And when you stop having that potential, they're like monkeys. They climb from branch to branch. So while they're with you, they're constantly looking for something better, you know. And that's how women are. They are constantly looking for who's better than what I got now. You know, this guy's got a degree in such and such, he's making this much money a year. This is something that they'll sit around and talk about with other women. They'll sit there and talk about, like, how much money is your husband making? How much money is your husband making? And, you know, they look at their neighborhoods, and it's all a question of status, you know. the men that these women are with, you're only their husband because of status. They want status and they want somebody to retire from. You know, that's all they care about. So, you know, that's what I was going to come on today. She's got so much crap on there. I'm not even going to go into all of it. If you guys want to read her crap and maybe throw up responses to her or whatever, you can. I'm sure she'll be on this video too. I'm not even going to mention her name because I don't like to give the feminists any fire. So yeah, that's all I was going to talk about today. Just some stupid feminist bullshit. You know, I just figured it'd be easier to make a video on it than sit there and type out everything. It's a lot easier, you know, because they don't actually read your comments. They like to read like the first couple lines and then start firing back at your character and your personality itself, you know. So I just find it easier to read through their comments and just talk about what I see. So yeah, that's the video for today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you got any questions, comments, you got any video ideas you want me to do, leave them in the comment section below. Share, like, and subscribe.